Hello, everybody. Bill Sparks from Gilead Ministries, and looking forward to today as I get to spend some time with some friends, and really looking forward to this interview today because I get a chance to talk to someone who has been on staff, who's been a friend for a number of years, someone who I trust, and someone who I know loves the Lord and really enjoys serving in the areas that she's had to serve. And so looking forward to talking to Ginny Soultz. And so if you've not met Ginny, you need to. She's one of the individuals I guarantee that can encourage you on any given day. That's why she's had been a part of our team. So, Ginny, just real quick, tell everybody, how did you even get involved with Gilead Ministries? Tell a bit about that story.
Okay. Well, I don't know what it's been now, 10 or 12 years ago now, I think. We were pastoring in Fairmount, and each of our small groups were encouraged to have some sort of a service project. And one of the ladies in my small group had been doing writing cards and sending cards and such for Gilead, and also doing some of the Christmas gift bags and that sort of thing. So when I brought up, hey, let's think of an idea of something we can do for service, she said, well, let's get connected with Gilead Ministries. So I had a meeting with Teresa Brown to figure out what we needed to do to get that ministry started. And Teresa and I don't know, we just seemed like we'd known each other forever and became very good friends. And so we did the ministries for our small group and sent cards and so on. But through my conversations with Teresa, she said, hey, I think there's some other things at Gilead you might be interested in. And she asked if I might begin making phone calls, encouraging phone calls to cancer patients and long-term illness clients and things. And I said, Teresa, I don't think that's going to be a very good fit. And she said, why not? And I said, because I don't like to make phone calls. But she's so convincing and such a good friend that I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So did some training and started making phone calls to cancer patients, and found out that it really is a very fulfilling kind of a ministry. And when you make those phone calls, a lot of times your goal is to encourage other people, and you find out that as you talk to these clients and their families, that you're the one that gets blessed. And so Teresa got me hooked, and that's how I got started. I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, something like that.
And the hook stayed, obviously, because from being the volunteer who come and made phone calls, what happened next?
Well, then we needed some more folks to make phone calls. We just continued to get more clients and so on, and it seemed to really be meeting a need for clients and their families. And so Bill asked if maybe I would come on board as a staff member and help recruit some folks to make phone calls, and also to do the training for people that came in. And that really was a joy to me. I love training folks and getting to know them and their stories and why they are even interested in doing this, and just a really neat part of the ministry.
Yeah. So one of the main reasons I wanted to get a chance to have an interview with you is because of what we've been experiencing over the last couple of years. And your world has been impacted, not just here at Gilead, but at your other position when you spend time as a chaplain at Heritage Pointe. Mm-hmm. And so I want, for just a few moments, to you to begin sharing what it's like over the last 2 years to be a chaplain in the middle of a healthcare system, which is just facing an upheaval left and right, and all the struggles that went with that, and trying to minister to people, trying to help them get through that. So share what you'd like to share as far as being a chaplain in the middle of that kind of constant fire.
Well, these last few years since COVID-19 has hit have just been so incredibly challenging for everyone in the healthcare business. And Heritage Pointe of Warren is a long-term healthcare facility for senior citizens. And back in 2020, March, when all of this began, of course, all of us were hoping that we would just, shut down for 6 or 8 weeks and everything would pass and we would get back to life as usual. And obviously, 2 years later, we're still dealing with all the effects of this pandemic. And for the first part of the pandemic, of course, our folks that are senior citizens are considered, the highest risk. They already have health issues and advanced age and so on. And so, the idea was we need to protect these folks. And so all the efforts went into protecting them physically by keeping them in their rooms. They wouldn't allow family members to come in and visit, so that the pandemic wouldn't enter our building and it wouldn't spread and so on. And for the first, from March through November, they were very successful at keeping COVID out of our building. But once it hit in November, it was devastating, and all of our efforts to keep it out were just eventually could not be successful. And so it's a great deal of loss, and what a lot of folks who were, at the state and federal level who were making the decisions about how to handle this crisis in these long-term facilities, what they were not realizing is we really did a great job protecting our folks physically, but in the meantime, they were suffering terribly emotionally. Cutting them off from visitation and family and so on was just devastating. I think a lot of folks that didn't die from COVID died from a broken heart. And so as chaplain at that facility, it was our job to try to minister emotionally and spiritually to these folks who've been cut off from family members who are losing hope. If you can't even be with your loved ones, what hope is there in living? A lot of them just gave up. And so we were there trying to be a voice of hope in a very dark time. Fortunately, this far into the pandemic, at the state and federal level, which of course regulate our facilities, they have finally realized that folks' emotional well-being is every bit as important as their physical well-being. And so they have remained open to visitation, even though our numbers in the area are still high. They've not cut off visitation for our folks, but the restrictions are still very high as far as social distancing, wearing masks constantly. If you're within 6 feet of someone, you must still wear a mask. And so it's just been an incredibly difficult journey at Heritage Pointe. And as hard as it's been, I feel like what God had said to Esther in the difficult time that she faced in Scripture, that she was there for such a time as this. And that's the way we have felt, that we wanted to remain there to be a voice of hope and comfort in a difficult time. And that's a similar thing to what we do here at Gilead, with the phone calls and so on, to offer comfort and hope to those who are struggling, and just to walk the journey with them, to let people know you're not in this difficult journey alone. There's somebody here who will walk it with you. And I guess that's been my philosophy of ministry, and this pandemic has really brought it home to me. I feel like my job in ministry, we're just here walking each other home.
Yeah.
Home toward heaven. And wherever you are on your journey, if I can walk with you for part of that way, that's what I would like to do, and offer some hope and some comfort.
Yeah. So talk about some of the emotional toll it took on you during that time and how that panned out.
Working at a facility like that, it's just, you feel like these folks are part of your family. I feel like these folks are my aunts and uncles and loved ones. And so it's taken a tremendous emotional toll on me, as we've experienced so many losses over the last 2 years, and just seeing their decline, their emotional decline and physical decline in this pandemic. And in the midst of it, when the pandemic hit Heritage Pointe, it also hit our family. And I got COVID right at Christmas time in 2020. And so I was very sick at home, and my husband was too. And then following that, our children got sick. And So it took a toll on our own family. And for me personally, though I was never sick enough to be hospitalized, praise the Lord, we were able to cope with it at home. I literally have been dealing with various symptoms of COVID ever since. So for more than a year now. Fortunately, finally, I've finally found some medicine, the inhaler. My doctors worked with me tirelessly to find the right things to help. Found an inhaler that has helped my lung function, which in turn has helped my migraines that were ongoing from COVID. Still dealing with the COVID fatigue. There is no fatigue like COVID fatigue. So I'm still dealing with that to a certain extent. But that made trying to cope with being the voice of hope and comfort to other people is very challenging when you're suffering yourself and not feeling up to par. I never had to miss work at Heritage Pointe, but I never really felt good for the last year. And it's very hard to you want to do your best, and the needs are so great that it was a struggle. Yeah. And it was during that time that I felt like I didn't have the physical or emotional ability anymore to do both Gilead and Heritage Pointe at the same time. So Bill graciously offered me a leave of absence for a time, but unfortunately the pandemic hasn't gone away. And even though the rest of the world, we're all tired of it. So a lot of us, are eating out. We're getting with our families. We don't wear masks when we're out in public. We've kind of gone on with our lives because of COVID fatigue. But it's not that way in long-term facilities. Those restrictions haven't changed a bit, and it's wearing. Yeah. And so because of that, I've talked to Bill and said, I don't know when this is going to end, and I feel like I'm leaving him hanging if I just continue with a leave of absence that has no end in sight. And so that way he's able to move on, find people to do the things that I was doing, and he's been very gracious and helping me through that, praying me through these difficult times, helping me make hopefully wise decisions and so on. So I appreciate that very much, very much.
And then there's one other thing I thought about, maybe you might want to talk about just for quickly, maybe longer. Something else also is taking your time up. So why don't you tell everybody about that joy?
Oh my goodness!
And that's part of the reasons. Obviously,
how much time?
Exactly. How much time do we have? Exactly. Yeah. Talk about that joy, because that's been another factor of energy that you wanted to give, and for good reasons. We always want to make sure we're investing in this area. So tell them about this area.
Yes. In the midst of the pandemic in August of 2020, our very first grandchild was born, Alexander, and he has been the bright spot and the joy in the midst of this most difficult time in our lives, all of us, but any of you that have grandchildren know what a difference they make in your life. And I have the privilege of babysitting our grandson 2 days a week on the weeks that I'm not at Heritage Pointe. And so I was so blessed by my parents and my in-laws. They did the same thing for my children. And it was such a blessing for the grandparents. It was the blessing for the children to get to know their grandparents that well. And such a blessing for me that I could go and do my job and not worry one bit. The kids were having a wonderful time and being well fed and well cared for. And so I really wanted to pass that blessing on to my children and my grandson. And it has been such a tremendous joy. And because Bill has grandchildren of his own, he understood that I did not want to give up that privilege. And so I still am babysitting our grandson a couple days a week. And we just get such a kick out of him. I could tell you all kinds of stories, and I have pictures. If you want to see pictures, just look at my Facebook page. You'll see all kinds of pictures of him.
Yep, that's for sure. No question. I can attest to that, but there's lots of pictures. Yep. Well, and I just appreciate your family as a whole, because it has been multi-generational support and faith, and your family is and no family's perfect, I understand, but theirs is pretty close. So they do a pretty good job at it. Maybe Ginny and Al are maybe some of the soft spots in that, but no, seriously, they've done it. And it's just cool to see you pour into the next generation again as a grandma, and that will have fruit to bear down the road, I guarantee you. So it's really cool. It's an opportunity for you to invest in the next generation. So is there anything you want to add as we finish up? Anything particularly you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to say? And
it's hard for me not to get emotional when I talk about these things, but I've had the privilege of seeing both sides of Gilead ministry. I've been able to work and be the person on the phone giving encouragement and hope to other people. But in the midst of this process, our family has also lost loved ones to cancer. And so we have been on the receiving end of the encouragement and the help, and just the knowledge that we're not alone in this journey, that people are walking this journey with us. And so I just want to say how thankful I am for being a recipient of that. And that means the world to me. And so I just want to say I believe in this ministry. It makes a difference in people's lives. So many of our volunteers that come back and pour hours into this ministry are ones that have been affected by the hope and comfort that's been given. And so I just encourage you, if you have a need, get a hold of us. We would be more than happy to walk the journey with you. Absolutely. And if you want to pour into a ministry that will no doubt be a blessing in your life, Gilead Ministries is a great place to do that.
Thank you, Jenny, for that. Thank you for taking your time. I know life is full of a lot of stuff, and I really appreciate you taking your time. Thanks for the kind words. I would pass those kind words back. I guarantee you I would not have gotten through the seasons I've gotten through had it not been for people just like you, people I could lean on and trust my life with. So I appreciate you as well, because there's days in which that I would sit and take in from you guys, because my world had whatever happened, and you guys were always supportive, and I appreciate that. We built a friendship over the course of time that I think is, to me anyways, one of the warm memories I have of our time together. And I know when I text you and I'm praying for you, or you're texting me and praying for me, that I know that there's someone who really cares about me, because they know me and they're willing to know me in and out, and have been willing to walk that journey with me as well. So I appreciate it very much. And so thanks for your time today. Thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate this opportunity to share Ginny's story with you, and looking forward to the next opportunity we get to be together. So God bless, and y'all take care now. Bye-bye.